The Grand Galactic Assembly hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Inside its massive council chamber, representatives from 847 different species waited for the final count. The air processors worked overtime to accommodate breathing mixtures for creatures that ranged from methane breathers to those who preferred ammonia atmospheres. Translation devices hummed softly as thousands of languages converted into meaning. Ambassador Taejin sat perfectly still in the human delegation section. His dark suit looked simple compared to the elaborate garments and natural displays of the alien representatives around him. Next to him, Ambassador Hyrin kept her hands folded on the desk, but her eyes moved constantly, watching everything. High Arbiter Velthex rose from his seat at the center of the massive circular chamber. His scaled skin caught the light as he moved, making him look like he was carved from green stone. He had served as the council's leader for 300 standard years. His voice, when he spoke, carried through every translator in the room. "The vote is counted," Velthex announced. "On the matter of Earth's expulsion from the Galactic Union, the result is 731 in favor, 116 opposed, with 14 abstentions." The chamber erupted in sounds that the translators struggled to convert. Clicking, whistling, humming, and dozens of other noises filled the space. Some species celebrated. Others sat in concerned silence. Counselor Drath, whose insectoid body stood on 4 legs with another 4 arms gesturing wildly, rose to speak. "Humanity has proven itself too dangerous to remain in civilized space. Their military expansion threatens peaceful species. Their refusal to share weapons technology shows their true intentions. Today we have made the galaxy safer." Taejin watched Drath with an expression that gave nothing away. Several other human delegates looked upset or angry, but Taejin remained calm. He had expected this outcome. In fact, he had prepared for it. Hyrin leaned close to Taejin and whispered something in Korean that the translators did not pick up. Whatever she said made the corner of Taejin's mouth twitch upward in the smallest hint of a smile. "Hi." Arbiter Velthex continued with the formal declaration. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Union effective immediately. All human personnel must vacate Union facilities within 90 standard cycles. All human vessels must withdraw from Union territory within the same time period. All treaties and agreements between Earth and the Union are terminated." The formal words carried weight. They meant humanity was being cast out of the community they had joined only 70 years ago. For most species, such a declaration would be devastating. It would mean isolation, economic collapse, and vulnerability to any hostile force. Taejin stood slowly. The chamber quieted as the human ambassador prepared to respond. Many expected anger or pleading. Some hoped for defiance that would justify their decision. What they got was something else entirely. "The human delegation acknowledges the Council's decision," Taejin said, his voice level and clear. "We will begin immediate withdrawal from all Union facilities. Earth thanks the Council for their time and consideration over these past decades." That was it. No argument. No appeal. No dramatic speech about the unfairness of the decision. Just acceptance. Counselor Drath's mandibles clicked in confusion. "That is all you have to say. You do not contest this?" Taejin looked at Drath with eyes that seemed to see something the insectoid counselor did not. "The Council has voted. Humanity respects that vote. We will comply fully with the expulsion order." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Taejin's calm acceptance felt wrong somehow. Species that were expelled usually fought back politically, or at least showed some emotion. The human ambassador acted like he had just been told about a minor scheduling change. "However," Taejin continued, "I do request a private communication channel with High Arbiter Velthex before we depart. There are certain logistical matters we should discuss." Velthex's ancient eyes studied the human carefully. Something in Taejin's tone suggested layers beneath the surface. "Granted. We will speak in 1 hour." The human delegation gathered their materials and stood to leave. As they walked toward the exit, other species watched them go. Some with satisfaction, some with uncertainty. A few with something that looked like concern. In the corridor outside the council chamber, the human delegates finally allowed themselves to show emotion. Several looked worried. A few appeared angry. But Taejin and Hairin walked with purpose, their expressions focused. Do you think they suspect? Hairin asked quietly in Korean. No, Taejin replied in the same language. They think they have won. They believe expelling us makes them safer. They have no idea what they have actually done. How long before they figure it out? 30 days, maybe 40. The first shortages will appear within 2 weeks, but they will not connect them to our departure immediately. By the time they understand, it will be too late. Hairin allowed herself a small smile. Command will be pleased? Operation Severance can proceed ahead of schedule. Taejin nodded. Contact Admiral J1. Tell him to begin Phase 1 immediately. I want all human personnel out of Union space within 60 cycles, not 90. And make sure our people take everything that belongs to us. Every piece of technology, every research note, every trade agreement backup. Already done, Hairin said. The orders went out the moment the vote was announced. J1 has the fleet repositioning as we speak. An hour later, Taejin sat across from High Arbiter Velthex in a private meeting room. The ancient alien looked tired, as if the weight of the decision pressed down on him. You accepted the expulsion too easily, Velthex said without preamble. Why? Taejin met the Arbiter's gaze directly. Because fighting it would be pointless. The votes were counted before we entered the chamber today. This decision was made weeks ago in private meetings and backroom deals. Am I wrong? Velthex said nothing, which was answer enough. I wanted to speak with you, Taejin continued, to ensure there are no misunderstandings during our withdrawal. Humanity will remove all our people and all our property from Union space. We will cancel all treaties and agreements as required. We will take nothing that belongs to others, but we will take everything that belongs to us. That is acceptable, Velthex said slowly. Is there anything else? Taejin stood and moved to the window that looked out at the stars. Millions of lights scattered across the darkness, each one a sun with worlds around it. Do you know what humanity learned in our first 50 years of space exploration, High Arbiter? What is that? We learned that everyone thinks they are the protagonist of the story. Every species believes the galaxy revolves around them. But the truth is much simpler. Taejin turned to face Velthex. The galaxy does not care about anyone. It just exists. What matters is not what others think of you, but what you build for yourself. I am not sure I understand your meaning. Taejin smiled. And for the first time, Velthex saw something in that smile that made him deeply uneasy. It was not anger or resentment. It was confidence. Absolute, unshakable confidence. You will, Taejin said quietly. Give it time. You will understand perfectly. As Taejin walked back to join the other human delegates, he looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, the first moves of Operation Severance were already beginning. Ships were moving. Contracts were being terminated. Resources were being redirected. And most importantly, information was being gathered about exactly how much the Galactic Union had depended on humanity. Without ever realizing it, they had voted to banish Earth. What they had actually done was set humanity free from restrictions that had held them back for 70 years. In trying to weaken humanity, they had unleashed something they were not prepared for. Taejin whispered to himself in English, words no translator would hear. They have no idea what they have just done. Admiral J1 stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Indomitable and watched his fleet move into formation. 200 ships of various sizes formed up in groups, ready to begin the withdrawal from Union space. Each vessel carried personnel from the dozens of Union facilities humanity had operated or shared with other species over the past 70 years. Status report, J1 ordered, his tactical officer. A young woman named Lieutenant Minho checked her displays. All personnel from the Kepler Research Station are aboard. The medical facility at Proxima Station reports complete evacuation. Trade Station 7 reports they need another 4 hours to finish packing equipment. They have 2 hours, J1 said firmly. We leave ahead of schedule. If they cannot finish, they leave it behind. Min-ho looked surprised but transmitted the order. Around the bridge, other officers worked efficiently. They had drilled for this scenario dozens of times. What everyone else thought was disaster, preparedness had actually been preparation for this exact moment on the civilian side of the withdrawal. Ambassador Kyung-ho sat in his office surrounded by holographic displays. Each one showed a different trade contract or business arrangement. His fingers moved rapidly as he worked through the list, canceling agreements one by one. His assistant, a nervous man named Dongmin, watched with growing concern. Sir, if we cancel the medical supply contract with the Tertian Federation, their hospitals will run out of antibiotics within a month. Then they should have thought of that before voting to expel us, Kyung-ho replied without looking up. Cancel it. What about the agricultural exchange with the Bantari Collective? We provide them with grain storage technology. Without it, they will lose 30% of their harvest to spoilage. Cancel it. The defensive satellite system we maintain for the Yulian worlds? Cancel it. Dongmin hesitated. Sir, without those satellites, the Yulian system will be vulnerable to pirate raids. Kyung-ho finally looked up at his assistant. His round face, usually cheerful and friendly, showed no humor now. Dongmin, we are being expelled. We are not welcome in their space anymore. Why would we continue to provide them with anything? Cancel every contract. All of them. If they want our services, they can negotiate new agreements after the expulsion takes effect. But the economic disruption will be massive. Yes, Kyung-ho agreed. It will be. That is their problem now, not ours. At the Quantum Research Facility in the Andromeda sector, Dr. Biora oversaw the dismantling of the most advanced physics laboratory in known space. Humans and aliens had worked side by side here for 30 years, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with faster-than-light travel and energy generation. A Tertian scientist, one of the few aliens who had voted against expulsion, approached Bao with visible distress. Doctor, please reconsider. The work we are doing here on quantum field stabilization could revolutionize space travel. If you take the human research data, we will be set back years. Bao looked at her colleague with genuine sympathy. I am sorry, Veltar. I truly am. But this is human-developed research using human-built equipment funded by human governments. We are taking what belongs to us. What about the joint projects? The ones we developed together? You may keep anything you contributed to. All joint research data will be split according to who provided what. Baura handed Veltar a data pad. This is the breakdown. You will see it is fair. Veltar looked at the information and felt his breathing tubes constrict. Nearly 80% of the breakthrough discoveries had human fingerprints all over them. The advanced field equations were developed by human mathematicians. The containment technology was human engineering. Even the theoretical framework that made it all possible came from human physicists. This leaves us with almost nothing, Veltar said quietly. Then you should have valued the partnership more, Bora replied. She turned back to supervising the packing. Decades of research disappeared into secured containers, ready to be transported back to human space. Throughout Union territory, similar scenes played out. Human medical staff packed up and left facilities they had helped build. Human engineers shut down systems they had maintained. Human security forces abandoned posts they had protected. Captain Subin, a civilian freighter captain, piloted her ship through what had been a busy trade route between human and Goran space. Her cargo hold carried machine parts heading to a Goran manufacturing world. But as she approached the delivery point, her communication system lit up with an urgent message. All human vessels are ordered to cease operations in Union space immediately. Return to human territory. This is not a drill. Subin changed course without hesitation. The Goran manufacturer would not receive their parts. That meant their production line would shut down. That meant their contracts with other species would fail. It was no longer her problem. Back at the Galactic Assembly, Counselors began receiving reports of the human withdrawal. At first they felt satisfied. Humanity was leaving even faster than required. It proved they knew they were beaten, but some counselors started to notice patterns that concerned them. Counselor Miral, a junior member from a small species called the Trinari, studied the withdrawal reports carefully. What she saw made her scales turn pale. "High Arbiter," she said during a council session 1 week after the expulsion vote, "I need to present some findings about the human withdrawal." Velthex gestured for her to continue. Miral displayed data on the main chamber screen. Humans are withdrawing not just from the Union facilities, but from disputed zones and neutral areas the expulsion order never mentioned. They are evacuating from the Carrigan sector, the outback reaches, and the frontier zones. "Perhaps they want a clean break?" Counselor Drath suggested. "Or perhaps," Miral said carefully, "they know something we do not. Look at this data. In every area humans are evacuating, there are either valuable resources they discovered, or dangerous threats they were managing, or strategic positions they were holding." The chamber grew quiet as counselors considered this, Miral continued. "Furthermore, the economic impacts are already appearing. Medical supply shortages on 12 worlds. Agricultural technology failures on 6 more. Security gaps in 17 different sectors. And this is only 1 week after they started leaving. Surely other species can fill these gaps," another counselor said. "Can they?" Miral challenged. "The medical supplies humans provided used their unique manufacturing processes. No one else can make them. The agricultural technology is protected by human patents and requires human-made components. The security gaps exist because humans were the ones patrolling those areas, and no other species has volunteered to take over." High Arbiter Velthex felt a cold sensation in his chest. He thought back to his conversation with Ambassador Taejin. The human's confidence had been unnerving. Now he began to understand why. "Continue monitoring the situation," Velthex ordered. "Report any significant developments immediately." In human space, Taejin met with Hyrin and Admiral J1 via secure holographic conference. The three of them reviewed the withdrawal progress. "All personnel will be out of Union space within 45 cycles," J1 reported. "We are well ahead of schedule." "Excellent," Taejin said. "What about the trade situation?" Hyrin smiled. "Kyung-ho has canceled 93% of all commercial contracts. The remaining 7% are with species that voted against expulsion. He is offering them new contracts with more favorable terms for us, and the technology transfer? Dr. Bir reports all human-developed research has been secured and removed. Joint projects have been split according to contribution. In most cases, that means we took the valuable parts and left them with basic framework." Taejin nodded with satisfaction. "Phase 1 is nearly complete. Begin preparation for Phase 2. I want contingency plans ready for when they come asking for help." "When, not if?" J1 asked. "When," Taejin confirmed. "They will come. The only question is how long it takes them to swallow their pride." Hyrin pulled up a star map showing human space and Union space. Red markers indicated areas where problems were already developing due to human withdrawal. Intelligence estimates 30 days before minor issues become major crises. 60 days before they start experiencing serious civil unrest on affected worlds. And they still will not understand the full scope for at least 90 days, Taejin added. By then, our position will be unassailable. We will have secured all our interests, strengthened our defenses, and established new relationships with species smart enough to see opportunity instead of threat. Admiral J1 looked at the red markers spreading across the map like a disease. They really had no idea how much they depended on us. No, Taejin agreed. They thought of us as dangerous newcomers who needed to be controlled. They never stopped to calculate what would happen if we simply left. That was their mistake. 3 weeks after the expulsion vote, a human message reached the Galactic Assembly. It was simple and formal. Human withdrawal from Galactic Union territory is complete. All personnel have been evacuated. All facilities have been returned to Union control. All contracts have been terminated as required. Humanity thanks the Galactic Union for 70 years of association. We wish you well in your future endeavors. 30 days after humanity's expulsion, Captain Subin guided her freighter through what used to be a safe trade corridor between the Tertian and Goran systems. She was not supposed to be here. Human ships had been ordered to stay in human space. But Subin was carrying medical supplies to a Trinari colony world, one of the few species that had voted against expulsion. She had volunteered for the dangerous run. The danger came faster than expected. Her sensors screamed a warning as 3 ships appeared on her scanners. Pirates, the kind that had been rare in this sector when human patrol ships had been around. Unidentified freighter. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. A harsh voice demanded over the communication channel. Subin's hands moved across her controls, trying to calculate an escape route. Before the expulsion, she would have sent a distress call to the nearest Union patrol. Human ships would have responded within minutes. Now, the communication channels were empty except for her own breathing. She sent a distress signal anyway, broadcasting on all Union frequencies. This is civilian freighter Morning Star under attack by pirates. Requesting immediate assistance. Silence answered her. She sent the message again. Still nothing. The pirate ships closed in, weapons charging. Subin made a decision. She changed course, pushing her engines to maximum and heading toward the nearest jump point that would take her back to human space. The pirates pursued, firing weapons that struck her shields. You cannot outrun us, freighter. Stop your engines or we will destroy you. Subin kept running. Her shields were failing. One more hit and her ship would be dead in space. She was still 2 minutes from the jump point when her sensors detected something new. A large ship dropping out of faster than light traveled directly in her path. She nearly cried with relief when she recognized the signature. It was a human patrol cruiser, the Vigilant, operating just inside human space boundaries. The cruiser's commander, a woman named Commander G1, transmitted on a tight beam to Subin's ship. Morning Star, this is Vigilant. Jump to these coordinates immediately. We will cover your escape. Subin did not argue. She punched in the coordinates and jumped to safety. Behind her, the Vigilant turned to face the 3 pirate ships. The pirates, seeing a military vessel, decided they had easier prey elsewhere and fled, but the incident was recorded. And it was not the only one. Throughout the former trade lanes that humans had quietly protected, piracy exploded. Merchant ships that had traveled safely for decades suddenly found themselves under constant threat. At the Galactic Assembly, Counselor Miral stood before her fellow counselors with grim determination. In her hands she held a data tablet filled with information that had taken her weeks to compile. Fellow counselors, she began, we have made a terrible mistake. Counselor Drath's mandibles clicked in annoyance. We voted to expel a dangerous species. That was the correct decision, was it? Miral challenged. She activated the chamber's main display. Numbers and charts filled the holographic space above their heads. These are the economic impacts of humanity's departure. 30 days ago, we thought we were removing a threat. What we actually did was remove a support structure we did not know we were standing on. The display showed sector after sector in growing crisis. Medical facilities running out of supplies, agricultural systems failing, trade routes collapsing, security gaps widening. This is temporary disruption, another counselor argued. Other species will fill the gaps. Miral shook her head. Look at the medical supplies. Human pharmaceutical companies provided 34% of all medications used across Union space. Their manufacturing processes were unique. No one else can replicate them. Hospitals on 12 different worlds are rationing supplies right now. She changed the display. Agricultural technology? Humans developed preservation systems that reduced food spoilage by 60%. They shared the technology freely, but the systems require human-made components for maintenance. Those components are no longer available. 6 worlds will experience significant food shortages within 90 days. Another change. Trade route security. We assumed Union patrol ships protected merchant traffic. They did not. Humans protected it. They maintained a network of rapid response ships that could reach any point in Union space within 30 minutes. Piracy rates were at historic lows because of this network. In the 30 days since humans withdrew that network, piracy incidents have increased by 400%. The chamber fell silent as the counselors absorbed the information. Miral continued, her voice growing stronger. But the worst part is what we gave up without even knowing it. The humans refused to share weapons technology. We called that proof of their aggressive intentions. But I have discovered what that technology actually was. She pulled up technical specifications that made several counselors gasp. This is human shield technology. Not weapons, shields. They developed a defensive system that could protect civilian vessels from almost any attack. They offered to share it with us 3 years ago. The Council rejected the offer because we believed they were trying to gain strategic advantage. They were trying to protect everyone, someone whispered. Yes, Miral confirmed. And we rejected it? The technology we called dangerous weapons would have made every civilian ship in the galaxy nearly invulnerable to attack. Instead, we expelled the species that developed it. High Arbiter Velthex listened to all of this with growing horror. How had they missed so much? How had the Council failed to understand humanity's actual role in galactic civilization? There is more, Miral said quietly. I have evidence that this expulsion was not organic. 3 species orchestrated it, spreading fear about human expansion and military buildup. They manipulated the vote for their own political advantage. That is a serious accusation, Velthex said. Do you have proof? Miral transmitted data to his private display. As Velthex reviewed it, his ancient features grew even more grim. Communication records, secret meetings, coordinated propaganda campaigns. It was all there. The 3 species had wanted humanity expelled because human economic success was threatening their own interests. Human medical technology was better and cheaper, cutting into tertian pharmaceutical profits. Human agricultural systems were more efficient, making Goran food exports less valuable. Human security services were more effective, making traditional protection rackets obsolete. We were manipulated, Velthex said, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. The Council was used as a tool by species seeking to eliminate economic competition. Councillor Drath stood slowly. His insectoid body seemed to shrink as the implications hit him. What have we done? Far from the Galactic Assembly in a secure facility on Earth, Director Wurjin reviewed intelligence reports with quiet satisfaction. His organization had been gathering information about galactic politics for decades. They had known about the manipulation, the secret meetings, the planned expulsion. They had allowed it to happen. His assistant, a sharp woman named Hannah, entered his office. Director, we are receiving requests for secret meetings from 17 different counselors. They want to discuss trade agreements outside the Council's knowledge. How many are from the 3 species that orchestrated our expulsion? None. They seem to realize they are not welcome. Wu Jin smiled. Good, except meetings with the ones who voted against expulsion. Schedule the others for later. Make them wait. Make them worried. What about the Council itself? Velthex has requested communication with Ambassador Taejin 5 times now. Continue to decline. Politely, but firmly. We do not speak to the Council anymore. We speak to individual species on our terms. Hannah hesitated. Sir, the humanitarian situation is getting serious. Medical shortages are causing deaths. Food shortages are creating instability. If we wait too long, innocent people will suffer. Wu Jin's smile faded. I know, and that is unfortunate. But we did not create this situation. The Council did. They need to understand the consequences of their decision before we offer any assistance. How long? Another 30 days. Maybe 60. Long enough that every species in the Union understands exactly what humanity's departure cost them. Long enough that they realize we were not the threat. We were the solution to threats they did not even know they had. Back on his homeworld, Counselor Drath received a report that made his breathing spiracles constrict. Medical facilities on his planet were running out of critical medications. The ones provided by human pharmaceutical companies. The ones they had relied on for decades without thinking about where they came from. His chief medical officer delivered the news personally. We have enough supply for 45 more days. After that, we will have to start rationing. Critical care patients will be prioritized. Others will have to wait. Can we manufacture the medications ourselves? Drath asked desperately. The human manufacturing process is protected by patents and requires equipment we do not have. It would take years to develop our own version, and even then, it would not be as effective. What about buying from other species? Drath felt something he had not experienced in a long time. Fear, real, genuine fear. Not for himself, but for his people. The expulsion he had championed, the vote he had celebrated, was going to kill members of his own species. 3 months after the expulsion vote, the Galactic Union faced its worst crisis in recorded history. The council chamber, once filled with confident declarations and political maneuvering, now held the sound of desperation. Counselor Drath stood at his position, and everyone could see the change in him. His exoskeleton appeared dull and his movements were slow. My homeworld reports catastrophic medical shortages. We have lost 3,000 citizens in the past month to treatable conditions. We no longer have the medications to treat them. A Goran counselor spoke next, her tentacles drooping. Food riots have broken out on 4 of our colony worlds. The preservation systems have failed and we lost 40% of our stored grain. People are starving. Another counselor from the Yulian system added his voice. Pirates have raided 6 of our cargo ships this week alone. Our economy is collapsing because merchants refuse to travel without protection we cannot provide. High Arbiter Velthex listened to each report with the weight of his 300 years pressing down on him. The council had created this disaster with their vote. Now they had to fix it. We must request assistance from Earth, Velthex said finally. I propose we formally ask humanity to provide aid as a neutral third party. We will compensate them fairly for their help. The vote was unanimous. Every single counselor, even the 3 who had orchestrated the original expulsion, voted in favor. They had no choice. The alternative was watching their civilizations fall apart. The request was transmitted to Earth through official channels. For 2 days, there was no response. Then a message arrived announcing that President Dayun of the United Earth government would address the council. When the appointed time came, the council chamber filled to capacity. Every counselor attended. Many brought advisors and observers. They needed to hear what humanity would say. The holographic display activated, and President Dayun appeared. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen much. She wore a simple business suit and stood behind a podium bearing Earth symbol. Honorable counselors, President Dayun began, her voice clear and firm. I have received your request for assistance. Before we discuss that request, there are some things that need to be made clear about Earth's relationship with the galactic community going forward. She paused, letting the silence build. Every eye in the chamber focused on her image. First, Earth is no longer bound by Galactic Union laws, regulations, or jurisdiction. We are not members. We were expelled. That expulsion freed us from all obligations and restrictions imposed by Union membership. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. They had not considered that aspect. Second, all systems under human control are now sovereign territory. Any unauthorized entry will be considered an act of war and will be met with immediate military response. We will defend our borders with lethal force if necessary. General Haywan appeared briefly in a secondary display, her uniform showing her rank as Strategic Defense Commander. Her presence emphasized that this was not an empty threat. President Dayun continued. Third, trade with humanity will be conducted under human terms, with human contracts, protected by human law. We will not operate under Union trade regulations that we had no voice in creating. Fourth, any species wishing human assistance must negotiate directly with Earth's government. There will be no council mediation. We do not recognize the Council's authority to speak for individual species. Councillor Drath felt his spiracles tighten. This was not a negotiation. It was a declaration. Fifth, humanity will no longer share military technology or tactical intelligence with the Union or its members. We operated under Union weapons restrictions for 70 years. Those restrictions no longer apply to us. Our military capabilities are our own concern. General Haywon stepped forward in her display. For 70 years, humanity limited our military development to comply with Union regulations. We built ships and weapons according to Union specifications. We shared our defensive discoveries. We operated under someone else's rules. She smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. We are not doing that anymore. The general displayed technical information that made every military expert in the chamber gasp. Human ships were far more advanced than anyone had suspected. Weapon systems that made Union fleets look outdated. Shield technology that made their vessels nearly invulnerable. Faster-than-light engines that could cross the galaxy in a fraction of the time other species required. We could have built these things years ago, General Haywon said. We had the knowledge and resources. But we followed Union restrictions because we were members in good standing. You expelled us. You freed us from those restrictions. You wanted us out of your space. Now you will discover what humanity looks like when we are not holding ourselves back. President Dayan took control of the broadcast again. Sixth, humanity will defend itself with lethal force if threatened. We are not aggressive, but we are not defenseless. Any species that attacks human vessels, human stations, or human worlds will face the full might of Earth's military. Seventh and finally, the three species who orchestrated this expulsion for their own economic benefit are permanently banned from human space. We know who you are. We have evidence of your manipulation. You will not be welcome in our systems, you will not trade with our merchants, and you will receive no assistance from our government under any circumstances. The three counselors in question looked like they wanted to disappear. Their manipulation was now public knowledge. Their reputations were destroyed. These are our terms, President Dune said. They are not negotiable. They are not temporary. This is how humanity operates now. You voted to expel us from your community. We accept that decision. But do not expect us to come running back because you made a mistake. High Arbiter Velthex found his voice. President Dayun, we acknowledge that the expulsion was an error. We are requesting humanitarian assistance for civilians who are suffering. Will Earth provide no help at all? We will provide assistance, President Dayun replied, but on our terms through direct negotiation with individual species. Ambassador Yun Seo is our new Director of External Affairs. She will be accepting requests for meetings starting tomorrow. Species that voted against our expulsion will receive priority. Species that voted for it will wait in line. The three species who orchestrated it should not bother applying. A new face appeared in the display. Ambassador Yun Seo was young for a diplomat, perhaps in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a businesslike manner. I will be conducting all negotiations personally, she said. Each species will negotiate separately. No group deals. No council mediation. You will each come to Earth and state your case. We will decide if and how we can help you. This will take months, a counselor protested. People are dying now. Then you should not have expelled us, Yun Seo replied without sympathy. We did not create this crisis. You did. We are willing to help, but we will do it our way. President Dayun stepped back to the center of the display. I want to be very clear about something. Humanity bears no ill will toward the species of this galaxy. We do not seek revenge. We do not want conflict. But we also will not be treated as subordinates who must follow your rules while receiving nothing in return. For 70 years, we compromised. We limited ourselves. We followed regulations that did not serve our interests because we wanted to be good members of the galactic community. We shared our discoveries freely. We protected trade routes at our own expense. We provided medical aid and agricultural technology and security services, and most of you never even noticed. You expelled us because you thought we were dangerous. What you actually did was eliminate the one species that was holding your civilization together. Now you want us back, but only to fix your problems. That is not how this works anymore. She leaned forward, her image seeming to grow larger. You wanted us gone? We are gone? You wanted to be free of human influence. You are free of it. What you are discovering is that you needed that influence more than you realized. That is not our fault. That is yours. The broadcast ended. The council chamber erupted in frantic conversation. Some counselors immediately began preparing requests to meet with Ambassador Yun Seo. Others sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. High Arbiter Velthex looked at the empty holographic display where President Daeyun had stood. In 300 years of service, he had never seen such a complete reversal of power. The Council had expelled humanity thinking it would make them stronger. Instead, it had made humanity stronger. By removing themselves from Union authority, humanity had become the dominant force in the galaxy. Not through conquest, not through military action. Simply by withdrawing support that everyone had taken for granted. Councillor Miral, who had already resigned but attended as an observer, smiled quietly to herself. She had made the right choice. Tomorrow, she would travel to Earth to take up her new position as an ambassador. She would be working for the winning side. Councillor Drath sat alone at his station long after the others had left. His homeworld needed help desperately. Thousands more would die if they did not get human medications soon. But humanity had placed his species in a special category. The ones who orchestrated the expulsion. The ones who were banned. 6 months after the expulsion, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Ambassador Yun Seo sat in her office on Earth, reviewing the agreements that had reshaped galactic civilization. 347 species now had direct treaties with humanity. Not through the Galactic Council, not through Union mediation. Direct, bilateral agreements that bypassed the old power structure entirely. Her assistant, a young man named Teo, brought her the latest report. The Trinari have completed their 5th trade shipment under the new agreement. They are reporting economic growth of 12%. And the Bentari Collective? Their agricultural systems are back online. They want to expand the treaty to include defense cooperation. Yanesio made a note on her tablet. Schedule a meeting for next month. Make sure General Haywon attends. If they want military cooperation, they need to understand what that commitment means. The new system worked like this. Any species wanting to work with humanity negotiated a separate treaty. Trade agreements, technology sharing, security arrangements, medical assistance. Each deal was custom-made for both parties' interests. And each deal was protected by human law and enforced by human power. The result was a web of bilateral relationships that made humanity the center of galactic commerce and politics. Not because they had conquered anyone, not because they had forced anyone, simply because they offered better terms than the Galactic Union ever had. Captain Subin, the freighter captain who had nearly been killed by pirates months ago, now commanded a small fleet of merchant ships. All of them flew under human protection. She had contracts with 16 different species, and every single one of those contracts guaranteed security. Human patrol ships guarded the trade routes. The pirates that had exploded in number after humanity's withdrawal had been systematically hunted down and eliminated. The galaxy was learning that human protection came with a price, but that price included real security. Subin's latest cargo run took her to a Goran station. As she docked, she noticed something different. The station flew both the Goran flag and a human flag. It was a statement. This station had a treaty with Earth. It was under human protection. A Goran dockmaster greeted her. Captain Subin, welcome. Your cargo is expected and ready for unloading. Payment has been transferred according to the human contract standard. Thank you, Subin replied. How are things here? The Goran's tentacles waved in a gesture that suggested relief. Much better since we signed the treaty with your government. The pirate attacks have stopped. Trade is flowing again. Some of our people complained about the cost, but they do not complain about being alive and prosperous. At the Galactic Assembly, what remained of the council met in a chamber that felt emptier than it should. Attendance had dropped significantly. Many species sent junior representatives instead of their senior counselors. The real negotiations were happening on Earth now, not here. High Arbiter Velthex looked older than his 300 years. The past 6 months had worn him down. We need to discuss the Council's future, he said to the assembled representatives. More than half our member species now have treaties with Earth that supersede Union agreements. The Council has become largely ceremonial. We still have authority, Councillor Drath protested weakly. He had lost weight. His homeworld's medical crisis had finally been addressed 3 months ago, but only after he had publicly apologized to humanity and accepted human oversight of all aid distribution. The humiliation had broken something in him. Do we? Velthex challenged. Name one significant decision the Council has made in the past 6 months that actually affected galactic affairs. Silence answered him. The real power now lies in bilateral treaties with Earth. Velthex continued. We expelled them from our community, and they built a new community with them at the center. We accomplished the opposite of what we intended. Councillor Miral, who had left the Council months ago, now served as humanity's chief ambassador to all alien species. She traveled constantly, negotiating deals, explaining terms, and facilitating relationships. She had watched the power shift from the inside, and now she was part of the new order. She met with a delegation from a species that had voted for humanity's expulsion and was now seeking a treaty. Their leader, a being named Corvin, looked desperate. Ambassador Miral, our people need human medical technology. We are prepared to meet whatever terms Earth requires. Miral reviewed her tablet. Your species voted to expel humanity. You celebrated our departure. Why should we help you now? Because we made a mistake, Corvin said simply. We listened to lies about human aggression. We did not understand what we were losing. We are asking for a chance to correct that mistake. Honesty, Miral said, appreciating the direct approach. That is a good start. Earth can provide medical technology and training. In exchange, we want basing rights for patrol ships in your territory and participation in our collective security network. You want military bases in our space? We want the ability to station ships that will protect the entire region, including your worlds. Think of it as insurance. You pay a fee through basing rights, and in exchange, you get security that the Galactic Council never provided. Corvin considered this. And if we refuse? Then you do not get a treaty. You continue as you are, struggling with medical shortages and vulnerable to any threat that comes along. Your choice. It was not really a choice, and both of them knew it. Corvin agreed to the terms. On Earth, President Dayun met with her senior advisors. Ambassador Taejin, General Haewon, Dr. Biora, Admiral Jaewon, and Ambassador Yanesio all attended the meeting in person. Status report. President Dayun requested. Yun-E spoke first. We now have treaties with 347 species. 200 of those include security cooperation. 94 include full alliance provisions. Our diplomatic influence has grown by a factor of 6 since the expulsion. General Haewon added her report. The military is operating at peak efficiency. We have established patrol networks across treaty territories. Piracy has dropped 93% in protected zones. 3 species have requested joint military exercises. We are becoming the de facto security force for a third of the galaxy. Dr. Biora presented her findings. Without Union restrictions on our research, we have made breakthrough progress in faster-than-light technology, energy generation, and medical applications. Our technology advantage over other species has actually grown since we left the Union. Admiral Jaewon provided the fleet status. We have expanded the Navy by 40%. New ships incorporating unrestricted technology are entering service monthly. If the old Galactic Union fleet faced our current fleet, we would win decisively. President Dayun listened to all of this and allowed herself a small smile. 6 months ago, we were expelled from the galactic community. Today, we are the galactic community. How did the council miss this possibility? They thought in terms of membership and authority, Taejin answered. They believed that expelling us would weaken us. They did not understand that we were never dependent on them. They were dependent on us. What about the 3 species that orchestrated our expulsion? President Dayun asked. Yunaseo's expression hardened. They are isolated. No treaty with us means no access to our technology, our security, or our trade networks. Other species avoid them because association with them means complications in their own treaties with us. They are paying the price for their manipulation. Good, President Dayun said firmly. Actions have consequences. They wanted us gone for their own profit. Now they can live with the results. The meeting continued with discussions of future expansion, new treaty opportunities, and long-term strategic planning. Earth was not just surviving its expulsion. It was thriving. In a small private meeting room, Ambassador Taejin finally accepted a call from High Arbiter Velfex. It was the first time they had spoken directly since the expulsion vote. Velfex looked at the human ambassador with something like respect mixed with resignation. You knew this would happen. All of it, the economic collapse, the security failures, the shift in power. You planned for this. But you hoped for this outcome. You wanted to be expelled. Taejin considered his words. We did not want to be expelled for no reason. But once we knew certain species were working to expel us, yes, we saw opportunity. The Union's restrictions limited our potential. Your regulations held us back. Your bureaucracy slowed everything we tried to accomplish. Being expelled freed us from all of that. You outmaneuvered us completely, Velfex admitted. We thought we were punishing you. You turned it into liberation. High Arbiter, I tried to tell you during our last meeting at the Council. The galaxy does not care about anyone. What matters is what you build for yourself. The Union tried to build a community based on authority and control. We built a community based on mutual benefit and voluntary cooperation. Which approach do you think works better? Velfex had no answer for that. The Galactic Council can still exist, Taejin continued, but it needs to accept its new role. You are not the center of galactic civilization anymore. You are one form among many. Species will maintain membership because it provides them some value, not because they need council approval to survive.